Safety.
Hypocrisy. Strength.
Responsibility.
Hope.
Care. Oneness. Imprisonment.
Hatred.
Love.
Death.
Assumptions. Smile.
Compassion.
Unity.
Judgmental.
Love.
Loyalty.
Strong.
Courageous.
Shelter.
Trauma.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for being here. This is very important for us to have you here to share with you the work that we've been doing for a couple of months. My name is Pati Hernandez, and I am the facilitator of Telling My Story, which is an interdisciplinary arts program that it's put to the service of the situation. We work on bringing unlike communities together and trying to address all these invisible and visible social walls that separate us, and that we so beautifully and gracefully know how to navigate around without really facing them. I just want to tell you a little bit. I need to do this because I'm gonna take this opportunity to tell you that last year, pretty much at the same time, we had the very first version of Telling My Story on the outside and in this very same spot. And for the second time, we get this amazing weather, and Mother Earth is with us. I want to acknowledge that this land is Banaki land, and I think it's really good to always remember that and be grateful for the sharing. I have a little list here of the people that have contributed to this, have supported this effort. The first thing is the Center for Transformational Practice, which is, we kind of partner this time around to run this program, to make it happen. And Simon has been very important in this process because he's been supporting me all along. So thank you, Simon. He's somewhere there. The Main Street Museum that really opened its doors to us so we could really meet in a place where we could concentrate in the work, and so like a safe space. Boloco supported us so generously. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. with its with food quite often, and it's really moving. And this is not actually the end. We're going to keep going, but I just want to tell you. I think it's important to acknowledge all the people that have been supporting us. The Jack and Dorothy Byrne Foundation and the Norwich Women's Club. They all have supported us. Not to mention a lot of individual donors that support us. So I think it's important to do that. Then, okay. And I want to thank the company because there's so much courage, presence, and oh boy, patience to put up with something that it's not easy to go through. It looks very exciting, and it is exciting, but it's also very painful and difficult. And the stamina that people have shown is just so humbling and moving, and it gives me so much hope to what maybe we can do in order to envision something different for all of us. So that's how I feel that I never had the right words to express myself, to thank people for the participation, for your presence, and for all that you've been putting up with me. Right?
Amen to that, Pati.
Yeah. So, without any further ado, let me proudly introduce to you the unusual suspects in us and them. A reflection on our community.
Why is my own anxiety my biggest obstacle?
Shadows. Why am I hiding in the shadows?
Am I on a path to salvation?
Why am I my own worst enemy?
Does peace really bring results?
Why am I in where I am in my life? When will I be able to forgive myself?
Survival. We can only survive if people don't judge us.
How can I live with more awareness?
When will our society just take care of everyone?
Why do we all just get along?
Would a protest really help?
When is this world going to wake up and change?
Can we do a camp out on City Hall for the homeless?
Why is there so much hate
and judgment in this world.
When will humanity be worth more than individual wealth?
What is that when I have paid only towel?
Freedom from fear. We won't be feared if we weren't judged.
How can we build bridges instead of walls?
Are they building a castle?
I wonder what it would be like to actually live in a world with no hate.
Why are we always judged?
I wonder if our community is getting better or getting worse.
I wonder if this world can ever be one I'm proud of.
I wonder if we'll ever feed the people instead of all the animals.
I wonder what it'd be like to have a life without violence.
I wonder what a community would look like without stereotypes, stigmas, and poverty.
Would life be better if we didn't have anything to worry about?
I wonder how we can build a solution together.
Jobless, COVID-19, natural disasters, fire, health issues. What is this all about? Does anybody know?
Who made this one?
Psychosis really doesn't sound like much fun.
Why am I a monster?
Chaos. Can you make
Be
that?
aware of your surroundings.
I like what I do, and if you don't, then you can go. Who wrote that? That's beautiful.
Life would be better if we
What
wasn't
is
all judged
pride?
over stupid stuff.
That's very true, Steve. Very true.
Heads up, victory over obstacle.
What's with all these lies?
You didn't catch.
Why am I doing another? Why is life so hard at times?
Escaping domestic sexual harassment, PTSD, uninhabitable conditions. I don't even know if I know what a world without that would look like.
Hey, Pete.
What is
Who wrote
real
that?
life?
Now, you can all wash this shit.
My name is Brian Lupart, and I have a testimonial, if I can get it unfolded. So when I grew up, all I ever wanted was to be a scientist. I took every science class I could in high school. I graduated from college with a 3.95 GPA in molecular and cell biology. I went to medical school and graduate school. I got a PhD in neuroscience, and I was running my own research program by the time it was 2011. I made discoveries that changed the boundary of human knowledge about how neurons grow. I wanted to be a neuroscientist largely because of my own experience with depression. I was trying to figure out what was wrong with myself. And while I would overcome depression as an adult, I almost entirely tied my own self-image with myself and my success as a scientist. And in 2017, I was arrested, and I spent 2 nights in jail. And I'm not proud of this fact, and I probably deserved those 2 nights in jail. It was a terrible experience to me. I was extremely anxious, and I hardly slept, and I was scared, but all I needed was $2,500 cash bail, and I could walk out of there. And so for me, and with my means, I did. I entered a plea of guilty, and that was all the time I would ever spend in jail, is 2 nights. But the worst was to come. Because of the run-in with the law, I found my job in jeopardy. And I was actually told that I could not go to work and not allowed to enter my own laboratory for over a year. And you can imagine, for somebody whose entire self-worth was tied up in what they did, this was extremely difficult. But during this period, I met a very close friend that really introduced me to a whole new world and a whole new way to find my self-worth. This was important because during this period, a good friend of mine also died. And it hit me hard. And I remember at his funeral, seeing his children and thinking to myself that my daughter didn't care about Dada the scientist. All she cared about was Dada the father, and that Dada loves me. And so it was very clear that I needed a personal journey. And by pure coincidence, I met Mike Chamness, who introduced me to UV gear. And over the next 2 years, I would work with UV gear and with the Upper Valley response team, and I would work to help homeless people as part of my journey. I always believed that all humans deserve basic respect and that they deserve to have their basic needs met. But I'd never really practiced this or practiced helping in this. I learned the stories of so many people. Almost every story is fraught with mental health issues, drug addiction, or victimization by the justice system. And in the winter of 2019, I sat in my car running the engine so that the man I was sharing McDonald's with could warm up. And I heard the difference between our stories. He had been accused of a misdemeanor, but did not have the means to post a $1,000 jail bail. And he waited in jail for 6 months. And when his case finally came up, it was dismissed completely. But he couldn't get those 6 months back, and he sure couldn't get the psychological damage that those 6 months did to him healed. And this was an inflection point in his life. And I was happy that we could eat together and get warm, and I could hear his story. I want to close my testimonial with a quote from another homeless person that I spent a lot of time with. And I've written pages and pages of quotes from this man. And I picked one that I'd like for you to hear. And this is really captures his thoughts about standing on a corner holding a sign to get money to meet his own needs. People don't consider my feelings. I have feelings. I drove a cab for 30 years. I learned a lot of techniques driving a cab. I can read people's movements. I know when they're going to stop just by looking at their bodies and their facial expressions. I also learned to read lips while I was driving that cab. So when I'm standing there on the corner and they're telling their mother or their brother or their cousin or uncle, look at that fucking bum standing on the corner. He's nothing but a drunk. I see it on their lips. The problem is they don't even have a clue. I haven't drank in years. I could care less about drinking. As a matter of fact, being a cab driver, I learned to hate alcohol, just the smell of it. It makes people irresponsible, and they think that just because they're drinking, it gives them an excuse. The truth of the matter is, whether they're drinking or drugging, there is no excuse. We are all humans, and we are all responsible for our own actions. The problem is, some people get misguided. I selected this quote because it illustrates the experience of homelessness, and hopefully, if you listen closely, it breaks down some of the stereotypes that you may have about homelessness. We are all humans. We all have stories to tell, and maybe our self-worth should be measured in the ways that we do good for ourselves and we do good for other people.
No violence for me.
Narcissists. We have too many of those.
Not enough of us.
Not enough of that. I never assume. That's something I've been working on a lot lately.
What is real life?
Like a vine. I'm trying to figure that one out.
Victory over obstacles.
Here, this is for you.
Abandonment.
Hey, Sarah.
My name's Andrew.
What am I doing?
I first met my wife when I was 10 years old. We were both at the Haven with our families. She kissed me first. We hadn't seen each other again for almost 13 years. When I was 16, my dad died. After he died, my home did not feel like my home anymore. Because so I became homeless at age 17. I was in prison for a year and a half, and when I got out, no one would help me but the Haven. So I started camping under the bridge a few months after I got out of prison. My wife and I met again during this time. We got married in March of 2020, and our daughter was born on June 10th. We were good until we lost our daughter. When she was a month old, because I was on meth and I put my hands on her. After this happened, DCF started looking at us and took our baby. It's been fucking hell since we lost our daughter. They said we weren't keeping her clean, but my wife had no problem parenting her. But they questioned her ability to take care of her because of me. I shake because of lead poisoning when I was a baby. People look at me like I'm a monster, and I feel like a monster. It makes me mad when people look at me like that, like this. And I get violent. This isn't the path and the life I want to live. Now just hope, I just hope we can move on and have a better life together.
I don't know. What are you doing? I'm building a forest. Well, you do that.
I am good for now.
Are you sure?
Where?
Where's the light?
Of my surroundings.
There. Hello everyone, my name is Simon Dennis. This is my testimonial. Throughout my life, there have been things that didn't make sense to me. Art, music, sex, the future, the economy. But I'm an accepting person, accepting of others. My father had reoccurring emotional breakdowns that put him in the hospital once every 10 years. And he once told me, the wolf is always at the door, which I interpreted to mean that he was always a little bit afraid of his next episode. My sister's relationship with the wolf was much more intimate. She heard voices in her head between the ages of 18 and 56 and died of complications due to the medications that she took. She also experienced a time of being unsheltered. But for the most part, I've been happy that the wolf has stayed away from my door. Until once, I got too far out on a limb. I was in another country, and for 6 months I became afraid. And I finally found myself in a field assuming life was over, and I was making deals with God. I said I would find a way to serve others, and this has become a part of my way through, strategy of mine for keeping the wolf away from my door. In the middle of December of 2018, after a terrible cold snap, when I was running back and forth from my heated house to my heated car, I learned that a group of tenters who I had met under the bridge had not run for cover, but rather stayed outside. How could this be? After this, we began building shelters with friends, some new friends. Some of this work was helpful, some of it was not so helpful. And some of this made me feel like a little bit of an outsider myself. More recently, I've been involved with a campaign to change Hartford zoning regulators to allow some emergency shelters. Here, I encountered something I did not expect. I encountered some coldness in the halls of the Hartford municipal governance, where good people sit and where I used to sit. I encountered a lack of caring. The word safety has been repeatedly evoked as a reason for inaction, without any remembrance of the fact that we have lost unhoused people from our community this year at a rate of 1 per month. So I'm continuing to fight this, but I'm so surprised by the coldness that I'm beginning to freeze a little bit. Am I going to fight against the establishment where I used to sit? Am I going to become even more of an outsider? This was never my way through, but I'm stuck, and the strategies that come more natural to me aren't working. Thank you.
Who wrote this one? The lies, stereotyping, narcissistic behavior, greed, hate. Tiffany, that you're a woman, right? So, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Man, that's for you.
Oh, wait.
Human well-being.
What about it?
That's
Rage.
something we need for everyone.
Confusion. I think I'm in that state like at least 10 times a day.
Hi, my name is Olivia Hurd. I am French, German, Irish, Scottish, Welsh, and a little bit of Abenaki Indian. I was named after my great-grandmother who died before I was born. She lived in Ireland till the day she died. In the old days, if you did work for someone, they would feed you and you could stay on their farm. There was more of a sense of caring, but that's not the way it is anymore. For instance, I've been through so much mental, domestic, and sexual abuse that it's a wonder I'm still here. I have been through hell and back, but I am a survivor, though there are a lot of people that doubt me. I have been married 3 times. I have some positive memories, but they also bring back pain. No one wants to be 5 months pregnant in a ball field dugout in the middle of winter, sleeping on clothes, sleeping under clothes, and in the morning, the only way they could tell they were walking was to look down at their legs. That's how cold I was. So now I'm afraid of a lot of things. I am stubborn and angry and impatient, and I have to be careful not to lose my shit. I am tired of being criticized constantly. That is the only thing I ever heard from my father. I have a diminished trust in humanity, but not a total lack of trust, just a diminished trust. I think that if people could see me underneath all my layers, they would actually see the true me. Someone caring and loving and generous. Meanwhile, I am wondering how to renew my faith in humanity, and I am trying to get my life back to where it needs to be.
You know what I like about faith? It's that thing that you ain't got it, nothing gonna happen.
For some people, it's an illusion.
For some.
Wouldn't it be nice to have a life where we would all have freedom from fear?
Here, this is for you.
And I'll add to that with abandonment, suffering, untrusting,
Love.
abuse, pain, isolation from reality, betrayal. Yeah. It'd be nice to not have that. So here, I'll give you that one.
Hello, everybody. I'm Adam Steinberg, and this is my testimonial. Adoption, addiction, abandonment, invisibility, often chosen rather than revealed. Many house rentals later, housing and affordability out of reach. From middle-class New Jersey and endless extravagance to 45 years later in the limited and expensive Upper Valley. This place of limbo and uncertainty, survival tactics lead the way. Neither housed nor unhoused, the tensions are inescapable. As a lad, our family barely acknowledged the unhoused. Now, as a result of no housing, my family and society judge me. The more precarious my predicament, the more apparent the American dream, a marketing tactic by the elites to keep people working, mortgages flowing, and protect the big three: Big Pharma, oil, and the Federal Reserve.
I'm not very graceful for that.
There's Adam's box here.
Yeah, I'm good.
Tia.
Always.
The beauty of nature. Who did that?
That's mine.
I love that. That's beautiful.
Lights. Can't have sun without light.
Can't have no sunshine without
Hi,
no
my
rain.
name is Sarah, and this is my testimony. Oh, whatever. Hi, my name is Sarah Daniels, and this is my story. I had a difficult situation growing up, but that made me the person I am today. And living with my parents wasn't the easiest. I lost my brother when I was 11 years old. That took a toll on me. Ever since that, I kind of lost my way. I was taken out of my parents' custody at the age of 13. They were struggling with addiction. They didn't have the tools to cope with their addiction and put their kids first. And then I moved in with my aunt when they took me out of my parents' custody. And that wasn't a very positive situation either. I lived there until I was 18. And then I went to a trade school, and then I left there because of harassment. Then after that, I went to live with my aunt's mother-in-law and left because I was trapped all the time. So I became homeless in February 2019. And then 5 months into being homeless, I become pregnant. I was homeless for most of that time. And then I ended up in a hotel room when my daughter was born. And then I had her for a month. And then DCF took her from me. Because my husband struggled with addiction. And when my husband's under the influence of drugs, he became a person I did not know. I lost my daughter because they took her from me. I fought for her, and I couldn't take her because of the high concerns of my husband and my mental health. And that burns me. I have endured some significant pain throughout this year. I lost my sister and my stepmom to drugs. And in August, this month, I had to sign my rights to my daughter because DCF didn't feel that I was good for my daughter. But she's with a loving and caring family. I am devoted to people who have helped me through this, especially the last 2 years of my life. My husband has been there since day one. And when DCF came in my life, they made me choose between my husband and my daughter. And that was a difficult, ongoing struggle for me. Throughout this DCF case, I've had some really good support people. And I have a question to close with. Why is the state so crooked?
Right there.
I need that.
Animosity. That's something we don't need a lot of.
Like Coach Sitch for everyone.
Always where your heart is.
Yeah, what? That's one for me,
Who
right?
do safety regulations benefit?
Sometimes I don't know if they benefit anybody.
What are you doing?
I'm just standing here.
Broken home, teen pregnancy, foster home, failures, bad behavior.
Why are you pregnant at 16?
Hello, my name is Charlotte, and this is my testimonial. I remember the first time I joined telling my story and met Patti. She was this lady with white streaks in her long black hair who wore wild clothes and has an accent which made it very hard for me to understand her words. She came from Dartmouth College with this intention of bringing unlike communities together and to give the marginalized communities a platform for their voice to be heard. And I can still hear her voice talking about privilege and the underprivileged communities. She was asking all of us, Dartmouth students and inmates alike, to acknowledge and to also question our privilege. And I can remember thinking, what privilege? Show me my privilege. Because from where I'm sitting, I couldn't see it, especially sitting across from a group of Dartmouth students. During that time, I had all of these assumptions about Patti and pretty much anybody that came from Dartmouth College, starting with the wealth of privilege they must have and thinking that a traumatic experience for them would be not to break a nail or not to get the Jaguar they wanted for their 16th birthday and only getting a Honda or, something along those lines. I had assumed that none of them had ever really had to work hard to get the material items that they possessed, that they did not understand the true meaning of pain, abandonment, physical, sexual, and mental abuse. I had just assumed that everything that had been given to them was there through this generational wealth that had been passed down to them. 10 weeks later, I learned just how wrong I was. I myself had come from a mother who came from a broken home and who had abandoned me to be raised within that same broken home. I came from a place where years of physical and sexual abuse, by default, led to mental and emotional abuse, ultimately leading me to a life filled with addiction, pain, and resentment. Okay. As I mentioned before, I did not see myself as privileged in any way, and coming from a place of pain, I was unable to see how these assumptions I was making could only lead to further failed relationships and struggles with trust. Countless years of my life, I had removed myself from society and the pressures to maintain the status quo. Living on the streets, abandoned structures, campsites in the woods was my way to escape. I was 11 years old the first time I ran away from home, and I can remember being picked up by the police and how they had their own assumptions of me, like I must be an unmanageable child or I was out of control. Not once did they ask themselves, or even me, what had led me to feeling more comfortable alone on the streets than being at home with my family. I think I can confidently say that now, 40-something years later, I am finally understanding the ramifications that come from assuming, whether it is me doing the assuming or other people assuming things about me. It was many years after joining the Telling My Story program that I finally understood what Pati was getting at all this time, and that privilege can mean many different things to many different people. I understood that I could not see my privilege or my part in this systemic mess because I was coming from a place of pain and resentment. I did have some privileges. For starters, I am not a person of color. I do not struggle with gender identity or my sexual orientation. These three things fit into the norm. I also, although being incarcerated, I was lucky that I was sentenced to one of the first jails that had true rehabilitation as its focus, not punitive punishment. I also had a daughter who unconditionally loved me throughout my struggles with addiction. And for me, the last almost 10 years, I've had a wonderful job where I've experienced growth and a steady income. And every day I am thankful for my sobriety, and every day I challenge myself not to assume anything and leave here today hoping that we can all take this difficult challenge.
You need a little fresh air. Where's the wind?
Light.
Hey, Adam. Too bad for you.
This is my testimonial. My name's Keith Golke. I've been homeless on and off for 3 or 4 years. Sometimes when I am in a group or shopping in a store, I just feel like people are looking at me funny. I feel like people are looking down on me just because I am homeless. I don't want to give a shit, but sometimes I do. They don't know anything about me. They don't know that I am really picky. For instance, maybe too picky. Even though I smoke, I don't see a single cigarette butt on the way to my campsite. I've got a cleanest campsite you ever see. Just because you're homeless doesn't mean that you can't take care of yourself. You don't have to live like a pig. I refuse to. I even get after my girlfriend if she flicks a cigarette butt and it doesn't go into the fire pit. I say, what the heck are you doing? That's too picky? I know. And I am not afraid of the police. The first time they ever came down to my site, the officer that I knew me said, Keith, I didn't know you were homeless. I said, yeah. It's not like I have a choice, but I can take care of myself. I don't need your wellness check. I said I can go. Oh, I said you can go now. And he left. The second time they came down, they asked me if I heard a woman screaming. I told the cops that I hadn't heard anything. I was at the dam fishing. So then I asked the cop, did I call for you? He said no. I said, do you see anything against the law? He said no. He said no. And am I under arrest? He said no. So I said, then you can go. Leave. This conversation is over. And they left. And I haven't had any problems with them since. Thank you.
Hello everyone. My name is Siddhant and I come from a place far away from here. So the theme of my testimonial is related to listening to those who society told me have nothing to say. I was fortunate enough to be born in a sheltered, protected home, provided for, have meals cooked for me, not have to get out of bed to do anything, and all the good life, that you see on TV. That was me. So in reflecting on my testimonial, I've written a poem that I want to share with all of you, and I hope that inspires all of us to reflect on our own role and shared role that we have in creating a world together. Sitting in my glass bubble, I hear loud noises. Oh no, it sounds like trouble. Between the red lights and cacophony of car horns, I see the others arguing. Those inside with me quickly say, "Look away." Their faces tighten in disgust. These are the ones that make the votes sway. These are the curse upon us. They don't work hard, just fuss. They are not valuable, they have nothing to say. These ones are ruining our time, costing us gas money, and committing crime. Then, a child, I simply say, fine. Years pass by, and my bubble begins to burst. The shouting and yelling is now indoors, within our school hall, even local shopping mall, right there in our living room, on our screens and breakfast tables, in our high-rise apartments, within our public service departments. In a world far, far away, protected from the others, we choose to ignore every day. Through this divide, the winds of change find those who have the courage to go close, just like all of you. Sitting with the so-called others, listening with compassion, a gesture completely out of fashion. My ivory tower world began to crumble. What can I do to stop this tumble? What good is my comfort if built on the suffering of others? Can we get through harsh weather? I have experienced the power of coming together. Have you tried to meet those who society has told you have nothing to say? Simply seeing, freeing, and being one with each other. That's the end of the poem. And once again, I would like to invite all of you to reflect on what responsibility means for and towards our shared world. Thank you.
We should build a.
Yes, it's time to build this thing.
Yeah. Let's make a wall.
We should build a snowman.
The wall is yours.
Oh yeah, the wall's back here.
No, let's do it there. That's
No,
fine.
no, Patty, you're right. That's it's okay.
That's fine too. They're both good. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. It's beautiful.
They screwed up the wall.
No, it's okay. We need the exercise, right?
Moved enough boxes today.
Chef 4RD.
Oh, yeah.
I know.
Manifesto!
We believe our society places people into insurmountable positions of poverty.
We believe we assume people are where they are because of their own doing.
We believe that dehumanization leads to death.
We believe that we need to envision a new world, that the dreams and goals of the past will not help us to find the solutions of the future.
We believe if they lived with us for one day, they'll be crying like bitches.
We believe we have a justice system that has evolved in capitalist society, therefore feeds on the poor.
We believe this community has a lack of resources for the unhoused.
We believe the tools needed for success are not accessible.
We believe the American dream has been marketed to the masses to push capitalist slavery.
We believe that if you can see all the bullshit that we have had to deal with by being homeless, then maybe you wouldn't look down on us like we are nothing.
We believe that everyone should take a good look at themselves before looking down on others.
We believe that the voices of the unhoused don't have a platform to express their needs.
We believe that more awareness and willingness to provide the necessary stepping stones would immensely improve our community.
We believe if there was more compassion in our community, there would be a lot less poverty, drug-related deaths, suicides, and better overall mental health.
We believe anything is possible. If someone says you can do it, you really can't do it. You really can. All we have to do is put our mind to it.
We believe we can help solve our personal and collective challenges by helping one another.
We believe we need to cultivate greater awareness, to be present to ourselves and others.
We believe we can change from a bad person into a good person.
We believe that positive outlook invites positive outcome.
We believe in power of love.
We believe that the struggle is real and that there is always room for improvement.
We believe that you can feel stuck, but it doesn't mean forever.
We believe there is never 100% stability, but you can be comfortable and happy.
We want to see everyone come together to help one another change for the better.
We want to see more unity, compassion, teamwork, awareness, and action in our community.
We want to see our part in the making of this mess.
We want to see a society rich in compassion rather than entrenched in laws.
We want to see more empathy and logic in the regulatory process.
We want to see, we want people to stop consuming animals and their fluids.
We want everyone to have food.
We want to see people stop fighting with each other.
We want to see clusters of simple, inexpensive housing that unhoused people can build together.
We want to see a change in the judgments of the unhoused community by the outsiders of the unhoused community.
We want to live in an environment that feels comfortable.
We want to see no one look at us like we are scum and like they are better than us.
We want to see everyone get along with everyone else and not take stuff from someone who is homeless like you.
We want to see public pressure, led by the unhoused, change Hartford zoning regulations to allow for emergency shelters.
We want to see others in the situation such as myself obtain the tools and education to get to where they need and want to be.
We want to see respect for all people.
We want to see people come together as one because you are not alone in this world.
Ward. Not alone in this ward. Oh, is it?
We
are
all a work in progress. So let's have courage to come together and make things better.
And now,
watch this shit!